taking the topic of a-holes in history, and you're going to talk about badasses in history.
Yeah, badasses of history.
I'll tell you my first one. It's Robert Todd Lincoln. He is one of the big a-holes in history.
Why is he an a-hole of history?
Oldest son of Abraham Lincoln, born in 1843, right here in Springfield, and he grew up.
Kind of makes him an a-hole.
Yeah, I know. Well, he grew up here. He enrolled in Harvard Law School, so he was basically out there when he was president, when his dad was president.
Okay.
But he did join the Union Army in 1865, but kind of as a wussy role of aide-de-camp to Ulysses S. Grant, where basically he's not going to get shot.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of a wuss there. But Lincoln was proud of him and thought him bright. He also saw him as a competitor. I don't know if you knew that. Lincoln actually saw his son as competition.
I didn't know.
And he was the only son that actually lived into adulthood. The rest of them died teenage years and before. So after his father died, he number one, he put his own mother in a psychiatric hospital and left her to rot.
Okay, a-hole move.
Yeah, a-hole move. Number two, in 1877, he turned down President Hayes' offer to appoint him as the Assistant Secretary of War. President Hayes is one of our greater presidents. Not well known, but he is one of our greater presidents. A-hole number two.
Okay.
But he did accept James Garfield, Secretary of War, and he served under Chester A. Arthur. Now this is my big conspiracy lot. 4 assassinations he was president for. Now, does that make any sense to you? Isn't that a little coincidental that the guy just happens to be? Number one, he was supposed to be at the theater with his dad that night.
He just happened to be.
He just happened to be out and about. He had some business to take care of, although he rushed the scene after it happened.
That sounds shady.
Garfield just happened to have Robert Todd Lincoln at his side when he was shot. And he died subsequently like a month later.
Oddly enough.
William McKinley happened to be there for McKinley's assassination too. Strange.
That is strange.
Wouldn't you stop as a president, stop inviting Robert Todd Lincoln to your events? Oh, but we're not done. In 1910, he also was there for the assassination of New York Mayor William J. Gaynor.
Really? That one I did not know about.
Yeah, he was there. Yeah, of course, Lincoln rushed to his aid. Now, here's another one. Now, he wasn't obviously part of it, but I'm sure any president after McKinley would have kept him away. He's buried, like, right near John F. Kennedy, which is just another one.
Weird. Yeah.
He also, now get this, he saved John Wilkes Booth's brother
That's right.
from getting killed by a train, Edwin Booth, just before his father's assassination.
Yeah, there's a weird connection there.
There's just too many things going on. So, and then plus he hates Springfield. He hated Springfield.
Yeah.
He detested everything about Springfield. So, and he committed his mother and just a real jerk. Only one not buried in Springfield.
What an a-hole.
Yeah. So there's Robert Todd Lincoln.
All right. So I did badasses of history.
Okay.
And I would just like to give a shout out to some of the lesser-known badasses. And in my opinion, there are a lot of qualities that make a person a badass. Helen Keller is a certified badass.
Yeah.
Gandhi, to go on fasts, he fasted until he was going to die. That was big. Werner Herzog, I think, is a badass filmmaker.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Jack Dempsey used to soak his hands in horse urine to make his fists tougher. That's badass.
Yeah, Dempsey is, yeah.
Okay, so I want to start, though, with John Liver-Eating Johnson.
Yes.
I think we've talked about him.
Yeah,
I don't think he's ever
mentioned
been on the show. Yeah. So, Liver-Eating Johnson was this guy. He was a real badass pioneer of the West.
Yeah.
And at one point, like 1847, his wife was killed by Crow Indians.
Okay.
So he went on a 25-year revenge battle with the Crow. And he basically became known because he would kill Crow Indians and then he would cut their liver out and eat it. That's like I guess a symbol of revenge is to eat your opponent's liver.
Glad we got cannibalism back on the show.
Yeah, well, that's where it kind of all started. I had just learned about him then. So yeah, he became known as Liver-Eating Johnson because he would eat all these livers. But his most famous story is that he was kidnapped by the Blackfoot Indians, who knew he was an enemy of the Crow. So they were going to sell him to the Crow Indians for a hefty price. So they took him, they put him in this teepee, and they put an inexperienced guard outside of the door, which is a big mistake. He was totally naked, had his hands bound in leather. He managed to get out of his restraints. He punched the guard out, cut off his leg, beat his way out of...
This is Steven Seagal.
No, but I think they should make a movie. Well, they did make a movie. Jeremiah Johnson is based on this guy. So he beats his way out of the village with this guy's leg. Then he makes a 200-mile journey through winter, no clothes on, and he survives by eating this guy's leg. I know this sounds too good to be true, but it's true. So he finally makes it to his friend, I think what's his friend's name? Del Gu was a trapping partner in the West, and he survived. But here's what makes him truly even more badass. After 25 years, he becomes friends with the Crow Indians. Nice. He puts it all behind him, and they become brothers.
He ate one of their friends, and then became a friend.
And he was also a whiskey peddler for a while, which is also a pretty badass move.
We all are.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I like him.
Okay, I'm going to go to another a-hole in history. Okay. Another one who has Springfield relations. Okay. Charles Lindbergh.
Oh.
Yes, big time.
I didn't see that coming.
Made the first transatlantic flight in 1927. But in order to speed this up here, I'll basically just summarize it.
How much time do we have?
4 minutes. Summarize it, he was basically a Nazi. The guy was a Nazi. I mean, and
you're not just throwing that term around.
No. I mean, even Franklin Roosevelt. Let's see. I'll look for the. I won't. Yeah. FDR said to his Treasury Secretary, "If I should die tomorrow," which he almost did, "I want you to know this. I'm absolutely convinced Lindbergh is a Nazi."
Wow, those are harsh words.
That's FDR saying this. Well, here's some of the things he said. "I do not understand these riots on the parts of the Germans," Lindbergh wrote in his diary. "It seems so contrary to their sense of order and intelligence. They have undoubtedly had a difficult Jewish problem, but why is it necessary to handle it so unreasonably?"
Yeah.
So I mean, he was all supportive of it. He received a German award before the war. He was all about appeasement. He didn't want the U.S. to enter the war against Germany, and he happened to have 3 mistresses of German descent and 3 different families outside of his traditional Lindbergh family. Plus, he crashed 2 planes in Illinois. Well, more than that, I think. I think they're unreported crashes that
he was probably drinking while he was flying too.
He was probably cursing the Jews or something because he's a Nazi.
That's good.
Yeah. So there's Charles Lindbergh.
I'll try to fit in one more badass.
Yes.
Quickly. This is the opposite side of Charles Lindbergh, fighting Jack Churchill. World War II. Imagine this. This dude, he went to battle with a bow and arrow and a sword. And one day in Salerno, he was fighting. He just had one other ally with him, this buddy of his. They came across a group of Germans who were armed to the teeth. This dude charged them with a sword, freaked them out so much he took them prisoner, and then he was marching around with these prisoners, and he kept convincing more Germans. He ended up with 42 prisoners that day, just with a sword. Then another day, he's in Yugoslavia. They raid this island. Almost all the men are killed, and they're holding the fortress, but they have to take on this counterinsurgency. So he's hunkered down. He's fighting like crazy. Everybody else dies. What's this guy do? Instead of giving up, he gets out his bagpipes and starts playing a song while the Germans come up. But the Germans were so afraid of him, they had to throw a grenade in that knocked him unconscious. They took him to a concentration camp. He escaped twice, made it through Nazi-occupied territory to find the Americans. Then after the war, he was mad that the Americans joined the war because he was hoping it would go on for 20 more years.
That's like the best part about that story.
He was hoping the war would continue.
He was hoping it would be 20 years long.
So then, after the war, he became a surfer. He became a surfer. And then for a while, he had an office job. And every day when he would ride the train home, he would get to a certain point, he would throw his briefcase out the window. And everybody was like, why is this guy throwing his briefcase out the window? It was his house, and it was on the way. He didn't want to have to carry it from the train station. So he would throw it out in his yard, and then when he would walk home, he would pick it up every day.
What was his fate?
He lived a long life. He died in the 80s.
Really?
Yeah. He was a real badass, though.
I want to read more about him.
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
I want to read more about him.
We'll have to put him on the blog.